I can clip out a couple other parts too. And, this is Tom from Force Multiplier Channel. I'm here with Bill, who's been a financial advisor. We're here for a kind of a conference thing going on, but we've got some time to talk about some of your background a little bit and some of the opportunities in the emerging economy with regards to asset protection, which you've got a lot of experience with.
Right. A number of people have used offshore areas to do their transactions, and it turns out that a lot of those areas in reality are tied in closely with the government. People have actually, in the past, actually, Belize offered a passport if you just deposited $50,000 in a bank. You didn't give it to the government, you kept it in your own name or the name of the passport. But on the other hand, Belize has also turned over people to the U.S. government. I know personally of an individual who was traveling from Grand Cayman to Costa Rica. The plane landed in Belize, and he had to change planes, and the Belize people would not allow him to get off the plane. Plane's next stop was Miami. So we're looking at alternatives now with the electronic possibilities. Of course, you have the Bitcoin, the Litecoin, the Quartcoin, a number of these that are offer quite a degree of privacy without the necessity of relying on secretaries and other banking officials that will turn over pretty much anything that they're faced with concerning a government without subpoenas or even
a lot of things that used to be legal, a lot of the hoops that the government used to jump through to get at people's assets at this stage just don't exist anymore. And that's one of the things I've discussed in a couple of the videos. They're low volume stuff. There's a lot of people that want to talk in the prepper and survival movement about, you know, let's just get some guns and a pile of gold, and sometimes it becomes a little difficult to keep that in something you could transfer to a safe area.
yes.
If you have the amounts of money that you want, or the family asset that you're looking to protect, it's something a little bigger than you could carry in your pocket.
Yes.
And we're also looking at a situation where you know, tax law is changing faster than a lot of people can cope with it, and we've seen that with the Obamacare stuff. There's a lot of people who want to comply with that and are finding that it's almost impossible to work with that without the danger of being in violation one way or another. And we're seeing threats against banks and financial institutions that they're really being strong on. And when we look at a lot of the conspiracy theory stuff that says, you know, they're in on it, but the other aspect of it is there's a lot of characters who are being strong on a lot of this stuff.
Right. A lot of times people are complying with the law in actual fact, but if they're hauled into court, you know, a lot of times they just don't have the resources to respond to a government intervention like that.
And sometimes the resources are taken away at a critical juncture. The law firms, of course, know that maybe this person's money's been locked up in some way, we can't get paid, therefore we're just not going to fight that hard on a case. And somebody might be stuck with a public defender or just an attorney who isn't up to the task of dealing with some very powerful players.
Right. Representation is critical, of course, and if you're at the level of public defender, you're going to pretty much have to go along with the program.
Right. Now, we talked a little bit before the camera on about the alternative currencies, because they are international in scope. There's several of them out there. But a lot of times we're looking at a difficulty and some risks involved with, you know, putting major assets into that. Where somebody might say, okay, I've got gold, now I want Bitcoin, but what's my Bitcoin get me? What kind of tangible thing? And it's a little bit scary to a lot of people to really take something tangible, put it into Bitcoin. But we were talking about some things where there are people holding assets which on paper actually have a considerable amount of value, and they can be traded for Bitcoin. They can be traded for other electronic currencies as a way of having an asset that's exploratory into the alternative currency as one of several options that somebody can do in asset protection.
Mineral deposits offer some alternatives that many people are not familiar with. Now, most people will think of with a mineral deposit, they're thinking of gold and silver. But in particular, the mining problems with those are extensive and expensive and hazardous. But there are dozens of industrial minerals that work very well for large asset holdings, and they are easily transferred by paper, and of course they can be held in the name of various corporations also.
So in recovering industrial mineral assets, a lot of times we're looking at things that would drive a local economy. A lot of reasons why municipalities and states are going to want to look at mineral assets as a better option for raising money, as a better way of raising revenue, because somebody has to get a bunch of bulldozers going. Somebody has to actually do economic activity. This isn't a matter where they can simply assign a value to it and then assign a debt to that on the basis of an estimated tax. They have to allow you to mine that in order to collect any money from you at all.
There's a considerable protection under the Mining Act of 1872, as a matter of fact. Actually, in effect, that act has a lot of exemptions from even federal regulation of the act called FLIPMA, where you have to do a lot of environmental impact studies and so forth, and that does not apply if you have an asset established under the Mining Act of 1872. And in this case, I'm referring to industrial minerals rather than the gold and silver.
Right, because there's a lot of manipulation that happens in gold and silver. A lot of people have seen the ups and downs of the gold and silver mining stocks, not fully realizing that industrial minerals have a level of strategic protection when it comes to that.
Right. Another thing is, like with gold and silver, I believe Mark Twain had said that a gold mine is simply a hole in the ground with a bunch of liars standing around. You can spend $10 million on proving up a gold mine before any gold is actually even extracted. Whereas most of these industrial minerals have what's called demonstrated proven reserves, and that's where any geologist engineer can pretty well assess what is available above ground. And these don't necessarily involve no explosives or corrosive acids are involved in the mining. In some cases, you can mine it just with a front end loader.
We'll talk about a couple of options on that in the next segment. Let's see how that goes.